Happy hump day, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets, powered by FTN, presented by Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney here with you. As always, appreciate you guys hanging out here today. We are going to get into it today on this show. We got Mr. Gilles Gallant of FTN. He's going to drop by. We know him as G-Dog 5000, G-Dub, hanging out with us on our FTN YouTube page right now. To start things, we are going to preview. This is where we start to get into it. Yesterday, we didn't really talk a lot about the AFC and the NFC Championship games. We have the Los Angeles Rams and the San Francisco 49ers. We touched on it a little bit on Monday, just the opening lines. We're going to talk about the predictions here, some props, some touchdown calls. I'm going to get Gilles to lock in a couple for us. He may not be there yet. I think he is. I think I see some bets over at our FTN bet tracker. We'll get him to call a couple touchdown props for us. I'm going to lock in basically everything on Friday's show. Picks, props, touchdowns, all that stuff. But if you guys were hanging out on Monday, you already know where I stand. I jumped on San Fran 3.5. They're looking for the 3-game sweep, and the Rams looking to become the first NFL team to not only host a conference championship game, but host the Super Bowl back-to-back. We know that the Bucs did it last year. They hosted the Super Bowl, but the Rams hosting this weekend, and the Super Bowl will be in Los Angeles in 3 weeks, a little under 3 weeks. So we'll talk about that game. We'll break it all down. Can San Fran complete that 3-game sweep? I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to have to throw the ball a little bit more. I think he will. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Also, of course, we will preview the AFC Championship game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Cincinnati Bengals, and that's another one that I already locked in at Cincy plus 7.5. That one, it feels like if there's a blowout, it does feel like that's the one that could be a blowout, doesn't it? It does feel like maybe, potentially, the Bengals can go into Kansas City and get blown out, despite them playing just a couple weeks ago, and Cincy winning that game and Joe Burrow looking phenomenal in the fourth quarter like he has over the past 5 or 6 games with the game on the line. He has done a really good job. So we'll break down the AFC and the NFC Championship games happening this weekend. Tino Rodriguez is in. There's a handful of games on the hard court. We'll break those down as well. I'm sure he's got some NBA picks for us. We'll dive into a little bit about the Hall of Fame. I know he wants to talk about the Hall of Fame. I get it. I think we probably should have a little bit of a conversation yesterday off the top of the show, talking about how Barry Bonds should be in there. My opinion, think he should be in there. You know, just write it on a plaque. Just write it on the plaque. Things that he did. Like, we'll save it. We'll save it. You guys already heard my rant yesterday. He didn't get in. Roger Clemens didn't get in. Kurt Schilling didn't get in. We know Schilling, like, no chance, right? Or he's very outspoken. He wasn't going to get in. But Big Papi did get in, first ballot Hall of Famer. He is in. We'll have a bit of a conversation about that. Also have some NHL picks and some NHL props to get to as well. See some people hanging out with us. Good night yesterday across the board in the NHL and in the NBA. Honestly, I saw several screenshots in our Discord channel, NBA and NHL. Shout out to Joe Metz, who had a fancy little TikTok video. I don't have TikTok. I probably should. I stay away from it. I watch, but I don't have an account. Maybe if you do have an account, you probably should follow FTN on TikTok. And it was tweeted from our FTN Bets account. Mets hit like a 20, 21, 22-1 a same game parlay. I know he had James Harden in there for, I believe, a triple-double. He had unders Russell Westbrook. What's going on with Westbrook? I mean, the guy looks awful. He looks awful in a Lakers jersey. Mets was all over that. I think he had Patty Mills as well over points. And I think our guy Benny Ricciardi also hit a nice little 7-1, 8-1 on James Harden as well. And I think he had a triple-double. I forget exactly what he had, over 30-something points, and I think he upped it to over 10.5 assists, and he had the 10 boards as well. So FTN Bets hot. Benny Ricciardi, haven't been able to get him on the show. He's a super busy guy, but you catch him over on Game Plus. Of course, we know that betting with Benny and Tino, you can catch on our FTN YouTube page. That also appears on Game Plus Network, and Benny Ricciardi's all over our YouTube page as well with some NBA props, always diving into the early lines in the NFL as well. He's already got some great content up on our FTN YouTube page. We always ask you to head on over to our FTN YouTube page, subscribe, smash the like button on this video. If you have any questions, you can leave them there in the YouTube section of this video. I always circle back before a puck drop and tip off just to kind of recap if anything happens, late minute scratches or I come off anything, or if you have any questions at all. we can get to them, on the YouTube page. And again, here, if you're hanging out, I see some people hanging out. There seems to be another conversation about the Hall of Fame. It's a big topic this week, but we won't really get into it too much. I want to just get into the NHL again. I have some picks and some props for you guys, and as well as the NBA subs cashing, the NHL subs. We had a pretty decent day. Before we get into that, let's talk about the 3 stars on the ice last night. And I don't have any 3 stars for the NBA, but I just wanted to give some love to kind of these guys and, some betting tips in here. And just look at this, George, fancy. Look at the writing here. Tyler Ennis has the hat trick, 6 goals or 6 shots on net, had the hattie yesterday. How about Aaron Dell? Just a greasy play on Drake Batherson. He stuck his shoulder out and he flattened him. And it does sound like Batherson's going to be sidelined here for the next few weeks due to an ankle injury. He should 100% get suspended for that. I thought it was just so greasy from Aaron Dell. I've always kind of felt like goalies should be fair game when they come out of the crease, and it's tough when they come out. I'm getting sidetracked here. It's tough when they come out and to have a skater go full tilt. They could really, really rock these goalies. But when you start seeing that kind of stuff, it's certainly suspendable. He needs to be suspended for a few games here. I think he's going to have a hearing, so he could get 5. I don't know. He definitely should get a few. I thought it was garbage last night, but good on Tyler Ennis. He has been playing in a top 6 role for the Senators over the past couple weeks, and last week on Tuesday they also played the Buffalo Sabres, and I played Tyler Ennis on DraftKings, and he did absolutely nothing for me, and I shot away from him yesterday, and look what he did. He had the hat trick, and I think he was in a lot of winning lineups yesterday on DraftKings and on FanDuel. And Joe Pavelski, we got to give this guy a lot of love. 2 goals, 4 points, and 4 shots. Pavelski, 19 goals and 48 points in 40 games this season. He had 51 and 56 last year. He leads the NHL in points dating back to last year. Players over 35. Now, there's not a lot of them, but he did pass Alex Ovechkin. He has points in 13 of his last 14 games. He's been unreal. He was plus money for an assist last night. He got it. His line mate, Jason Robertson, was plus money for an assist last night. He got it. His other line mate, Rupe Hintz, was plus money for an assist last night. He got it. I think it's the best line going in the NHL, honestly. You can say the Colorado line is great. Of course, I'm not going to sit here and argue that McKinnon line is not the best line in the NHL, but these guys are producing. They have a combined 123 points over 110 games. Hintz has 19 goals, 17 points, 36 points in 38 games. Robertson, he's got 85 points in 86 career NHL games. This guy's a point-per-game player. Who saw that coming? With the Kingston Frontenacs, he was a stud, but, I mean, he's really, really playing some good hockey in the NHL. 19 of the last 22 games, he's hit the score sheet. He's got 30 points over that span, 16 goals, 39 points in 32 games. I just wanted to really talk about them because of what they're doing. Now, they were plus money for points about 2 or 3 weeks ago. They're not anymore, but again, last night, all 3 of them plus money for an assist, and they all hit. That is just silly. It's something that we talked about for a long time on Dangle Bet Sell yesterday with Eric Young, who called 3 or 4 goals yesterday on that show. He is red hot. That's a free show to check out on our FTN YouTube page, wherever it is that you listen to your favorite podcast. This one and Dangle Bet Sell also available. You're right, Reed. Andrew Reed checking in here. Pavelski has been doing it forever. When he signed that contract with the Stars, he was a bit of a, you look back and it's the outlier season. Maybe a new team, new system and chemistry with certain players. It was a down year for him. But man, the past 2 years have been unbelievable for Pavelski. What he's doing at this age is very, very impressive. He's now inside the top 10 in scoring. And then a shout out to Brian Rust, who were on yesterday to score a goal at plus, I think, 176. And then to have an assist, another guy at plus 100 to have an assist. These are just odds when you play with Crosby. We talked about him being like an ATM machine. He just Russ is due for a new contract and he's going to get paid in large part due to Crosby and helping him out a little bit. But Crosby had the 3-point night and Brian Rust had the 3-point night as well. For Rust, 9 home games, got 7 goals and 17 points. So just something to keep in mind with some of these guys, some pretty good value when it comes to assists. And yesterday was about a 13-unit day over at FTNBets.com. So if you are looking to be part of the FTN family, you can head on over there, FTNBets.com/pricing. Use the promo code MEANSTREETS, Meaney. Save yourself a little bit of cash. We'll be giving picks, NHL picks all year, NBA picks. You would get Mets' picks in there. You get Benny's picks. You get Gilles Gallant's touchdown props. You get all the NFL picks. I know there's only 3 more games. I had to think about that longer than I needed to, or that I probably should have, but I clearly needed to think about that. But 3 more games, so we're still going to be giving some picks. Also, esports, NASCAR's around the corner, PGA, right? Brian DeCourty was in here yesterday giving some picks as well for the Farmers Insurance Open. So ftnbets.com/pricing. Save yourself a little bit of cash. We did hit on 3 or 4 parlays yesterday, and it could have been a lot better if Darnell Nurse would get 4 shots. And that's my bad. When I was typing out the picks to our guy George, I had Leon Draisaitl over 3.5 shots, and I was like, Darnell Nurse at plus 140. He's our guy. I think I got to go there. Nurse only had 1 shot, maybe 2. I'm a little concerned. He's not on that top power play anymore. We may have to come off of him if he's going to be 3.5. But Draisaitl had 11 shots last night. I know you guys don't want to hear that, but not great. Not great at all. You know who is great? It's Gilles Gallant. We've gone 11 minutes. We're going to bring in the touchdown king here next. We're going to talk about these 2 games in the NFL. Keep her locked. Mean Streets continues here on Game Plus Network. Welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney, as we bring in my fellow Nova Scotian, the GOAT over at FTNBets.com, the host of Touchdown Town and Dog Day Afternoon. You see it right there, GDog5000 on the Twitter machine. Happy Wednesday, sir. What is going on? Welcome in. Appreciate you.
I'm feeling good. I haven't been on the show in a little while. I think I need to start a fight with my neighbor again or something to get your attention.
Well, I asked you to come on after the Super Wildcard weekend, but you said no chance. You're gonna razz me up about the Cowboys, but listen, the Eagles lost too. So what was I really gonna say to you? I guess you had higher expectations.
I can't help it, man. I was crying in a pillow for a few days, and then it took me a little while to get over it. And once I kind of snapped out of it, then it was time to make more touchdown bets for the divisional round.
Yes. I know we're not going to talk hockey, but I know you're a guy that follows the Colorado Avalanche pretty closely, and this team is riding a massive home game winning streak tonight. They're an actual, we'll get to them in a little bit, but I do get a good kick out of you sending me Cale Makar highlight reel goals every other day when they play.
Well, what drives me crazy as an Avalanche fan, so I grew up a Quebec Nordiques fan. My entire family is French. Montreal Canadiens, if you're not a fan of them, you pretty much are an outcast in my family. And I was, the revolting child, and just like the Nordiques, I liked a lot of the players on the team. I followed, I thought we were sure getting Eric Lindros, that kind of thing, just a little time capsule to show people how old I am. And then they move in 1996. And I'm like, I guess I got to cheer for the Colorado Avalanche now. I don't really know. And then they win the cup the first year after trading for Patrick Waugh. And I'm sitting there well, this is my team. Like, I can't just not support them. Like, it's all the same guys that I loved. And then what would happen is that being from Nova Scotia, Nathan McKinnon gets drafted. Oh, you're just an Avs fan because of McKinnon. It's like, man, like, anyway, I don't want to get too deep into that, but I would get very testy about my Avalanche allegiance. And they look pretty good. I mean, they were favored to win the Stanley Cup going into the playoffs last year and got beat by Vegas, and a lot of the same. It's just more, let's get to the conference finals and see if we can actually put this away.
Yeah, it's a really good core, a young core that they have. I don't want to say that they have a 2-year window, but you mentioned McKinnon. He needs a new contract in a couple of years, and he is going to get paid. Like, I think he's making like 6 something. It's one of the best.
The discount on Nathan McKinnon is probably the biggest bargain in the NHL. I don't really know if there's a better one. So.
Yeah. Well, the Avs won the Cup in '96. I cried like a baby when I was young when Patrick Waugh got traded. It was absolutely heartbreaking for me in that old household. I see some East Coasters hanging out. I mentioned Andrew Reid earlier. East Coast lifestyle. Labatt only, but Keys for the Nova Scotia boys. Yes, I played a little junior C hockey in the Valley, and we were the Alexander Keys. Free pops after every game. It was fantastic.
Or there's other places too, like the Olins. I remember there was always the Olins too. Yeah.
Of course, Olins. Yeah, I have some buddies out west that work in the patch, and when they come home, they go nuts with the Olins. All right, let's talk a little NFL. We're going to talk some Super Bowl odds, some MVP odds throughout this show. Let's just kind of preview these games kind of one by one. Tino, if you want to start in the AFC, we'll start here with, both games are rematches. We've had a lot of rematches in the playoffs here. Kansas City in Cincinnati here. You see the total, the spread at 7.5. Most books at 7. You still have an opportunity to jump on Cincinnati plus 7.5 if you want to. If you are backing them and seeing the best possible odds using our free prop shop and parlay calculator, of course, as always, Cincinnati plus 280, KC minus 320, the over under 53.5. It has jumped to 54.5 in some spots. What do you make of this game? I said off the top, if there was a blowout at maybe this one, but I'll let you take it away first, but I think that the Bengals are going to hang around here, man.
I do too. I think my issue with this spread is I feel like odds makers are kind of setting you up to fail both ways. I think that's obviously the point of that. I think one of the things about the Chiefs, and not to go too nerdy here, but essentially it's almost like what Vision said in Avengers Endgame, just like the strength invites challenge. So when you see the Bengals at 7.5, it invites you to want to bet that because it's such a large spread. But then you look at this Chiefs matchup and you're so kind of prisoner of the moment of remembering that Week 17 game that you could actually, if you actually kind of rewatch some of the game, the Chiefs were up like 28-14, like going into midway through the third quarter. Had they just not let Jamar Chase do whatever he wanted, which I'm certain he's not going to get 3 touchdowns again in this matchup, they probably win that game by double digits. It's just right out of the gate in the second half, Jamar Chase runs for a 70-yard touchdown. Like, how do you forget that? And then they come back, they get another touchdown. Tyler Boyd is wide open in the red zone as well. So again, that was kind of the stuff like that. Those kind of mental errors in the secondary. I'm not sure if we're going to see that again this time around. So I'm with you. I do feel like this has a blowout potential. But if we're in the conference championship games and we've watched both of these underdogs win outright as underdogs in both Week 17 and Week 18, I wouldn't be mad at you if you wanted to take Bengals money line or 49ers money line in these spots.
Yeah, we'll get into that Niners one a little bit. It's also enticing, right, with the hook. We talk about it all the time with the 3.5. I believe on this show we really like San Fran in that second matchup, and it was the same sort of deal, right? You were getting that hook with the 3.5. You mentioned Burrow. I mean, it was a 34-31 game. He was threw for 446 yards and 4 touchdowns, and also Jamar Chase was phenomenal in that game as well. Do you feel like it is going to be a similar high-scoring affair, or is this like, you know what, we just played a couple weeks ago, maybe both teams could make some adjustments defensively? But for me, I'm like, if you're calling touchdowns, like, this is the game, dude.
100%. I think what I worry about is that it may not matter because the secondary's talent isn't necessarily there. But what I worry about is whether these teams, are they going to be so focused on making sure to eliminate the deep pass and getting burned like that again? Because both teams were getting burned that way in that matchup. And you even saw it with the Chiefs just playing the Bills. Like, if you throw it over the top, you can beat them. And that's kind of what I think the Chiefs are going to try to focus on. So I think like a guy like Joe Mixon could have a huge game in this type of matchup. So for me, looking at the total at 54.5, I'm kind of shocked it's still I thought it would be 55, like when it kind of opened, and it's kind of been slowly trailing up towards that. I think it's one of those games that if I had to, I would probably take the over, but it's just a lot of points. But at the same time, these two offenses are so explosive in the pass game that you might feel like an idiot midway through the third quarter, or even just in the instance of the Bengals, or pardon me, Chiefs Bills, you had the under, you felt great with 5 minutes to go. And then you were just like, oh my, like the total went over by itself just from the scores from the 5 minutes onward. So that's why I'm saying like it's very difficult to feel good about taking an under in any game involving the Chiefs.
How do you describe that game, man? That Bills and Chiefs game was crazy. It was my mom's birthday. We were over at her house. We were watching football. She doesn't obviously care. I was watching with the old man. He's a Niners guy. And then Deanna left. She went home. She's like, enough of this. I don't watch any football. And I told her, like, man, that game was unbelievable. I can't even describe it to you how it was. And then I tried to describe it to her. And after, she was just like, I thought you described it pretty well. It seemed like it was all right. And I was like, wait, what? Like, come on. Like, that game was, to me, it was the best game I've ever seen, man.
Well, I don't want to go that far because I feel like recency bias. We're always just natural to say, like, this is the best thing we've ever saw. J-Lo and Shakira, best halftime show I've ever watched. Like, slow down. Like, but I think at the same time, that last 5 minutes might have been the best last 5 minutes of a football game I've ever watched. Like, I think that's kind of what I would get at, and maybe kind of pare it down a little bit, because I've never seen that. I've never seen a 13-second get all the way down the field into field goal range before. And maybe I have, and I just can't think of it off the top of my head, but without a penalty or something like that, like a DPI or something along those lines. So for me, I just kept, I probably woke up my kids a couple of times, whatever, they'll get over it.
Sure.
But just at the same time, I just couldn't stop yelling. That's how I know that it's a really, if I yell, then I know that it's a big play. If I'm yelling at least 3 or 4 times in a fourth quarter, and I'm not really a yeller, then it's going to stick to me as a game that's probably going to last forever. So
everyone likes the J-Lo and Shakira the comment there. I don't know. Beyonce was pretty good too. It was a pretty decent halftime show. I think that this one is going to be a pretty good halftime show as well.
It's catered. It's fan service. Like, it's like somebody came up to me, 16-year-old me, and was like, what do you want to see for the halftime show? Okay, cool. In 21 years, you'll get it.
Yeah, you'll get it. Yeah, Timberlake and Janet Jackson. Yeah, for some obvious reasons, I guess.
Perverts.
Yeah. Come on, Tino. Come on, give your head a shake there, pal. All right, so if we're calling touchdowns from this game, I'm just looking at DraftKings. Got some odds here. Of course, everyone's going to want to check out your show. I know that you like to look for some value, but I'm just going to start off at the top. Like Kelsey, Mixon, and Hill, these guys are all minus 130, minus 125. You're not going to get any value there. Jamar Chase plus 100. Jerick McKinnon is plus 140. CEH plus 150. You got T. Higgins plus 190. Brian Pringle seems to score a touchdown every single week now. He's plus 190. CJ Uzomah as well. I think pretty interesting at plus 230. You got the quarterbacks in there. Mahomes is plus 225. Obviously, longer odds there for Burrow at plus 550. Boyd plus 260. Like, there are a lot of options here. Not a ton of value with, I would say, like, I don't think there's a ton.
I've got some value. I think there's more value in this game than there is in the 49ers and Rams game, in my opinion. Now, I will also say, before I even tell the picks, I just want to say that I'm a little mad with what Patrick Mahomes' odds are now, because he only rushed for 3 touchdowns this year. Now, obviously, we know his playoff pedigree, 5 rushing touchdowns in 10 playoff games. Last week, I got him at plus 500, and he was facing a fairly good rush defense. Actually, it was one of the teams that was actually pretty good against them, and then the Bengals are right there as well. And what kind of bugs me about that is, like, yes, he scored a touchdown, but when you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jerick McKinnon, Derek Gore, Darrell Williams, all of these rushing attacks, to put a quarterback less than plus 300, you have to be getting a guy like Jalen Hurts, maybe Lamar, or even Josh Allen. As great of a runner as Patrick Mahomes is, he is not in that category. Those odds are terrible at plus 225. If you bet them and you hit it, cool. But just know you're not getting the best value of what you could normally get for Patrick Mahomes, especially throughout the year and even just the 2 playoff games they played prior to this. So now moving on, my favorite touchdown bet is honestly, just from a value standpoint, it's got to be Joe Burrow, man, at plus 550. Right now, I got him at plus 600 at Bet365, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't play him. Basically, I wouldn't play him less than plus 500. But here's the deal. The reason why I'm going to take him to bet a touchdown or to score a touchdown is, I hate using this reason, is motivation. Because in a game like this, guys are going to throw caution to the wind. They're not going to think to themselves, what if I hurt my knee? What about the next game? And what about this? They're just thinking about whether or not they can help their team win. And part of the reason why I like it as well is because that's kind of the way that he's been playing kind of all season. Like, you saw him score a little bit, but even the first 4 to 6 games of this season, you could tell that he was still kind of favoring the knee, maybe not fully trusting it, maybe had 1 or 2 red zone carries, but just kind of wasn't there. And then you saw midway through the season and onward, when his knee started to he felt a little more comfortable, he started rushing for touchdowns, and you could get him at plus 600, plus 700 to score. And facing a Kansas City Chiefs defense that has allowed the most touchdowns to quarterbacks this season, pretty up there as well from rushing attempts per game, rushing yards per attempt for opposing quarterbacks. I feel like right now this is the best value, just because I think there's going to be a lot of focus on Joe Mixon. He plays nearly 90% of the snaps. You could talk to me about the offensive line, how they're not great. But again, I don't feel like offensive line play is indicative of whether or not a quarterback can score in the red zone. So for me, Joe Burrow is my favorite pick for Bengals Chiefs.
Yeah, I like that one too. Obviously, there is a lot of value. I'm seeing BetMGM still has him at 500 there, but given the DraftKings odds there's still some pretty decent value. You jumped on that one pretty early. It does make a lot of sense, right? Even, I know you said silly with the motivation thing, but we've seen him run around a little bit more, and something that Elliot, Chris, and myself and Matthew Friedman talked about is a lot of these quarterbacks, man, they're running more in the playoffs. I mean, even with Mahomes, you look, 22 rushing yards per game this season, 18 for his career. In the playoffs, 49, 30 for his career. 2 years ago when they were in the postseason, not last year, the 2 years prior when they won the Super Bowl, he averaged over 40 rushing yards per game that season as well. I think his rushing yard prop at 29.5 is too low. I know we're talking touchdowns, but I think that's one that's really low. And I think because we're on Burrow at 287.5 passing yards, I think that one's too low as well. I'm not saying he's going to go and throw 400, but he just did, right? And there's so many playmakers on that team, and we've seen the breakaway speed from a guy like Jamar Chase, where they threw a slant to him, or they threw basically a bubble screen to him, and he broke it for a 65-yarder. That's kind of the potential that this offense does have. Before we break and talk about the next game, is there any others that you wanted to mention? Any other touchdowns calls it?
Sure. And just to further the point about Joe Burrow from a motivation standpoint, just look at Matthew Stafford. Scored touchdowns in back-to-back weeks. Hadn't made the playoffs in over 5 years. You want to know why? Because he had nothing to play for and no reason to run the ball. Now we're in a game where the stakes are real, and I'm at the goal line. I'm going to go for it. So that's kind of just wanted to point that out just as far as the motivation factor. Tyler Boyd at plus 260 is my favorite Bengal, the one the mid-range kind of pick. And McCole Hardman at plus 300 is my favorite Chiefs pick. You could just look at the snap counts. Both of those guys are playing around 70% of the snaps. Tyler Boyd, up till last week, caught touchdowns in 4 straight weeks. I'm not just going to be deterred just because he didn't catch a touchdown against the Titans. And McCole Hardman scored a touchdown against the Bills last week, as well as he's starting to see his playing time ramp up. And I think they're going to put a lot of focus on just trying to stop Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce.
He almost had 2 in that game. In the overtime, I thought that he could have, really put his head down or his shoulder down and get in there on that catch. But he went out at the 5 and whatever. It's all good. They were able to throw a fade to Kelce, and it was GG. All right, we'll take a break. Hang out here, GG. One more segment, and we'll talk 49ers and Rams. Keep your lock. Mean Streets continues here on Game Plus Network. You're watching Mean Streets here on a Game Plus Network. We're going to switch gears, talk NFC. There was one more I wanted to mention. I know you've been on this. I've been on this as well. I saw you tweet. It was Joe Mixon, really involved in the passing game over the past couple of weeks. Plus 154 we gave on this show for 4 catches. I believe he had 6 in the last game. He's been a big part of the offense, through the air over the last 4 or 5 games. He's been getting some targets. We're not seeing a ton of Samaje Perine or Chris Evans there. I did notice, Gilles, that in that game against the Titans, when they were on like 3rd and long, they did still put out Samaje Perine and Chris Evans from time to time.
They did.
But Mixon was still getting some targets out of the backfield. I'm not seeing a catch prop on him, but his receiving yard props at 27.5, and I think that's one that I'll get behind.
Yeah, the one thing I said this, I was on a couple of shows over the week, and what I said to people this week is to watch for the receptions line that comes out for Joe Mixon, because over the last 3 games, it's been set at 3.5. with the over priced to either plus 145 or plus 150. He didn't play in week 18. So week 17 against the Chiefs, and then the 2 playoff games, it was at 3.5. And against that Chiefs team, it was actually at 2.5 for plus money on the over. And just so people are aware, I think it's going to go up to 4.5 this week because he got 7, 5, and then 4. I think books are going to probably try to adjust to that. I'd still like it at the over because the Chiefs ranked 28th in receptions to running backs at 7.7 per game. So if you can get plus money on that at 3.5 or even 4.5, you need to seriously consider it.
Yeah, and you got to feel like, as 7.5 point dogs or something like that there could be if you paint that game script where the Chiefs are going to score some points, that maybe it's potentially another comeback opportunity for Cincinnati, just like a couple weeks ago. Let's talk about this Niners and Rams game. The 3rd time these two teams are meeting this season. The Niners own the Rams, man. They've owned them over the past 3 or 4 years here. 3.5 the spread. Again, prop shop parlay calculator to get the best possible odds. The total hasn't really moved. 46.5. LA minus 165 on the money line. San Fran plus 155. I know there's this talk out there. We mentioned it on Monday that it's tough to beat a team 3 times in a row, but this from football perspective, that it's worth noting 4 of the 21 games where the teams have played each other 3 times in a row, it's the sweeping team was on the road in the postseason, but overall 14-7 for the team that had won both the meetings in the regular season. So that is certainly something to monitor as well. Do you think that this just continues? Like San Fran owns the Rams and that's it?
I mean, I'm not going to go that far. I honestly think that this is the Rams game to win. I just don't love the spread at 3.5. I think that's a trap spread. And I mean, maybe they win by 4, win by 7, and you win comfortably. I just think that you're setting yourself up to fail if it comes down to a field goal at the end of the game. And I just don't want to have that kind of sweat in my life. So what I would probably suggest is if you think the Chiefs are going to win, just parlay them both, Chiefs and Rams. I generally don't endorse parlays. It's a 2-pick parlay, so it's not like you're trying to get like 10 legs to go here, but a 2-pick parlay on that at plus 105, plus 110 is kind of what it is, depending on the sports book. That'd be the one I'd check out because I think we are going to see a Chiefs-Rams Super Bowl final. And by the way, I was looking at some look-ahead lines of what the potential matchup would be, and I think it's egregious. Doesn't matter who they're facing, even if they're facing the Chiefs. The Rams, if they're playing at home in the Super Bowl, I don't care. They can't be 3-point home underdogs in that spot. It has to be closer to a pick'em. At worst, Chiefs -1 or something along those lines.
I think the Chiefs would be favored though.
But barely. Like again, I feel like you could put a spread out there just for the nominal sake, but if you're putting it out there at -3 of what I saw for the Chiefs, you're going to have so much money on the Rams. Like it's going to be hilarious. Like I don't think anybody's going to bet the Chiefs in that spot. So, but from a touchdown score perspective, I generally don't like to take guys below plus 200, but the only one that really stood out to me at this stage is Odell Beckham. Even if you look at the 2 games that they played against San Francisco, where he didn't score, the first game I'll give him a pass because he was literally just being acclimated into the offense. Like it was the first game, and that was the game that they got blown out by San Francisco at Levi Stadium. So for me, that one is not so bad. And then the game against in week 18. That one is a little more troublesome for me. So that's kind of why I was a little hesitant to make him a best bet for this game. But I just feel like one of the biggest weaknesses of the 49ers has always been their secondary. Their secondary can be picked apart. If you look at the stats throughout the entire year, the position that they give up the most touchdowns to is wide receivers. You could put your money down on Cooper Kupp at minus 150 if you want, or even a Van Jefferson touchdown potentially at plus 280, which I think is still good odds, but he's just being slowly phased out of the offense. Like, even though he plays like 85 to 90% of the snaps, he's only getting like 2 targets a game, and Cooper Kupp is getting like 40% of the target share. So it makes it really difficult to feel good about taking a Van Jefferson bet. So right now, Odell Beckham at plus 140, I think that's one that you can actually win and be able to double your money up on that.
Yeah, he's got the 6 touchdowns in 10 games here with the Rams. His catch prop 4.5 is plus money. That's one that I like as well. He's just been a big part of this offense. Stafford's really just leaned on him a bit. And Cooper Kupp, man, if he gets another 100-yard game, he breaks your boy, Irvin. He breaks his record. 13 100-yard games. That's including the postseason as well. It was crazy, the ending of that game last week as well. We do have to get out of here. I see some people commenting about Chiefs fans. Yeah, a couple weeks ago when the Rams were at home, we heard Stafford say, like, it was hard to hear, and that was a home game for him. San Fran travels well. It could be a very similar situation, of course, this weekend. And I think if it was the Rams and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, I think you'd hear a lot of KC noise in there as well. But we'll wait to see if we get there. I'm with you. I think both of those teams win, but I am on the Niners to cover. I'm taking that hook, man. I really am. I'm taking it, and I'm taking Cincy at 7.5. But what we talked about yesterday, and this is kind of a coward bet, was, or not yesterday, the week before, we took all 4 road teams on the spread, but we just teased it. It just, obviously you have to lay a little bit more money. The payout isn't as nice. We covered it because you didn't get the Bills. You would have just had the other 3 teams on the road to cover easily. The Rams just straight up won. But the Chiefs, they found a way to win that game in overtime. And if you were backing the Bills, like, that would have just kind of broke your heart there. There was something else I wanted to get to with you. Oh, yeah, let's just bring this up quickly before we get out of here, Tino. We got the Super Bowl odds, and we have the MVP odds. Let's bring up MVP odds. Something that you and Tino talked about on your show, I do believe. So Mahomes is favored here. Who stands out on this list? I also like the Rams plus 500. What is it? Plus 600 to have a defensive score. That one's out there. I just thought of it because of Donald's on this list, but there's a couple things here. If the Niners win the Super Bowl, Jimmy G is not getting the MVP. I think it would be Debo.
You're preaching to the converted, my man.
That's it. That's what stands out to me. Go ahead if you wanted to talk about that or anything.
Well, all I was going to say, so we covered this yesterday on Dog Day afternoon, both Tino and myself, and the odds have actually changed from DraftKings since then. And the main thing that I brought up is it's about attribution and why it's difficult to take defensive players when you bet this, because if you take a defensive player, the team already has to have a defensive identity. Like, if you just look back at the defensive players that won it, Legion of Boom, Malcolm Smith won it. Baltimore Ravens in 2000, Ray Lewis won it. Von Miller with Denver. All those teams had defensive identities. That was their bread and butter. It wasn't their offense. I can't say the same for these 4 teams. Like, yes, Aaron Donald is good. Yes, Jalen Ramsey is good, but that's not how they have won their games, right, in my opinion. So again, Jimmy G, part of the reason why I was just annoyed by it is I just didn't like the odds. I was like, there is no way that if they get to the Super Bowl that they're going to attribute their success to Jimmy Garoppolo. He would have to have like a 300-yard passing game, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and it would have to be like a blowout kind of thing. And I just don't see that happening against either the Chiefs or the Bengals. So those odds to me are skewed, whereas Debo is one of those few players who can make stuff happen on his own, because even if he took a 5-yard pass on a slant and he goes for 80 yards, that was him doing it, not Jimmy. You know what I mean? So right. Jimmy is one of those guys that is just not tethered, or probably Debo is one of those guys that's not tethered to the quarterback. That's one of the reasons why I'm not really too thrilled with betting on Cooper Kupp as well, because they would probably attribute that to Stafford doing that, not necessarily Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, you're spot on. That's one that just really jumped out off the page when I looked at that. And a great job by Shanahan too. Like, couldn't find a way to get Debo going in the first half of that game in the Packers. And what did they do to start the second half? Just return the punt, return the kick, and then all of a sudden they started to get going on offense. Yeah, just give the ball to him and just see what he can do. Gilles, appreciate you. Everybody, check out Touchdown Town and Dog Day Afternoon as well. We're gonna bring in Tino. We're gonna talk a bit about the NBA. He wants to talk a little bit about the Hall of Fame, but first I got some NHL picks. So keep her locked. Mean Streets continues on Game Plus Network. Welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. So a couple hockey props here. Hopefully we can continue to have some success here. People are hanging out. They want the NHL goodness. Troy says he's up a bleep ton of units. Appreciate you, dude. David Pastrnak, Johnny Gaudreau, Patrick Kane, Austin Matthews. What is this? A 3.5 shot prop day? That could get dangerous here, but we got to go with Pastrnak here. For David Pastrnak, this guy is second in the NHL over the last 6 weeks in shot attempts, 114 shot attempts, and 3.5, right? This is something that he's done in 4 of his past 6 here. I don't mind on the other side if you wanted to go to Nazem Kadri. I didn't see any Colorado Avalanche guys, so I just wanted to go with Pastrnak. I also see Brad Marchand at a decent price at 2.5. I think he's in play as well. Books have adjusted because he's had a couple slow games, but I kind of like the Bruins here. We'll get to that in a little bit. Johnny Hockey's just been shooting the puck so much this season, which is something he didn't really do over the past couple years, right? Last year was a bit of a downer. He's got 9 points in his last 3 hockey games, 4 shots, 7, 6, 4, 5 over his past couple games. So 3.5 shots. He's the one flame that I have no problem going to. Matthew Tkachuk is, had 5 assists the other night. He's just looking to set guys up. So Johnny Hockey there going to take the side of 3.5 shots. A matchup against Columbus over the last 5 weeks of the season, according to Natural Stat Trick at 5-5 per 60. The Blue Jackets have allowed the 3rd most high danger chances, the 8th most shot attempts, the 3rd most shots, and the most goals. Also 4th in scoring chances as well. You got Patrick Kane there, 3.5 shots against the Detroit Red Wings. DeBrincat at 2.5 is at a decent price. I just have more faith in Patty Kane. Austin Matthews, we haven't given all year. He's usually at 4.5 or juiced at 3.5. He is juiced. I'm seeing 165 at over 3.5 shots. They shuffled up their lines a little bit in Toronto. I was really looking for Andre Kasha. I can't find him anywhere. This is somebody that I would really like to take at plus money at 2.5 shots, but a good spot here against the Ducks. Again, 5-5 per 60, according to Natural Stat Trick. Over the last 5 weeks of the season, the Ducks have allowed the 4th most shot attempts, 9th in shots, and 8th in high danger chances. So Matthews going to take a shot on him. Other guys like Nylander and Tavares, they're 3.5 as well at better prices. I just feel like Matthews is a little safer to trust. And then John Carlson, he's cleared in back-to-back games. He's been pretty good. He missed a couple games due to an injury, but for the most part, he has been clearing. I know there's no Timo Meier on this board. I was thinking about Timo Meier. I was thinking about Thomas Hertl as well. I just think I feel a little bit safer with John Carlson, but believe me, I'm going to have some parlays with those Sharks guys in there. Let's continue to slide along here. Tino, and what do you got for us next? We do have some goals here. So Pastrnak and Kane, these are guys that I just like to have the shots and to find the back of the net. Pastrnak is really on a heater right now. Nicholas Backstrom scored in his last game plus 300. I think this is a pretty good price. If you wanted to go with Ovechkin, go for it. One thing I did want to get off my chest here is that I've seen a lot of people just try to parlay all of these goal scorers. I think we had 3 of the 5 and then 4 of 5 the other night. It's not ideal, honestly. You probably have to combo it. You could take them as singles, maybe just take 2 of the 3. It's really tough to nail one of these, let alone 5 or 4. Like, I think combo is the way to go. Go over a Prize Picks, get the 3 for 4 flex play, kind of hedge life. If you are looking for just 3, you can go Pastrnak and Kane and maybe get Ovechkin. He's plus 100. I didn't want to give a plus 100 goal scorer here, so I gave Backstrom. I think he's a good single up on that top line with Ovechkin, and also the Sharks 5th in goals against per 60 at 5-5 over the last 5 weeks. Johnny Hockey in there. And then I said Andre Kasha is a guy that I really like this tonight. It's not just about revenge. When he plays on that top line, he's been really good with Matthews. He's been shooting and he's been finding the back of the net. And then finally, to wrap up here, we still have 2 more segments, 5 minutes, of course. The Flames in 60 against the Columbus Blue Jackets, a really strong road team. And then Calgary and Toronto, just a straight-up win here, plus 109. That's not great odds. You could take them to win in 60, both teams, and you'd get maybe plus 180. I like the Bruins. The upset here today, the Avs won 16 straight games at home. I understand that. I think Boston is a team that could get it done with the experience that they have. They just need the goaltending. Like, Rask needs to show up, and he just hasn't. A lot of overs in those Colorado wins at home as well. So I'm taking the over 6.5, and I put them at 6 in the parlay just to get that push. I think we'll see goals in Washington and goals in Detroit as well. Let's take a break. We'll bring in Tino. We'll talk NBA here next on Mean Streets. Keep her locked. I'll tell you what, this show didn't get nominated because of the timing. I did not pace it out as per usual, but Tino Rodriguez, you have the mic. What are you thinking here on the hard court?
All right, so this is for Brandon Gilden in the chat, who's chirping me for my college basketball bets. I will say this. We normally get hesitant, especially in certain matchups when a team's getting a significant amount of points, and I can't understand why. Normally, that'll mean the home team's going to blow them out and that the books know something I don't. I don't buy it this time. Providence ranked higher, better record on the road against Xavier. Each of the last 2 times they played Xavier, 1-point game decided in Xavier. They're getting 8 points on the road. Don't buy it. Don't buy it. This Providence team is too good to lose by 4 possessions. I'm all over it. I'm taking them the +8. If you want to get dicey and take them +200 to win money line, I think this game's going to be close, and I think there's a chance they can pull it out. And I'm also going to sprinkle a little bit here on +4 at UCF. I don't really like anything else. But UCF is a significantly better team against Wichita State, who has 0 conference wins. I've watched Wichita State play. They are just not good. I don't understand. I just don't get it. They're in a lot of close games. They don't know how to beat anyone by more than 2 possessions or lose anyone by more than 2 possessions. So if I'm getting 2 possessions with +4 in UCF, who's a 12-5 basketball team, who's relatively decent against the spread, they're under 500, but they're not terrible, and they've won 3 of the last 5. I'm taking that. I'm riding with them too. And we'll throw in the NBA picks really quick. I'm not losing because of the Raptors anymore. I'm going to take them tonight. I'm terrified.
Yes, you should. They win games, man.
I know, but I can't figure them out. So it's like the Knicks. Eventually, I'll just stay away from them because they'll never make sense to me. But they're getting +4 here against a Bulls team that played on that full strength the last time, and they won by 3 points. So if that gives you anything, I know recency bias. I'm getting 4 points on the road against a Raptors team that's just playing better basketball than the Bulls right now. The Bulls only have DeMar DeRozan. They're significantly better at home. If they cover this number, I just expect DeMar to take over in the 4th quarter, which he's been doing. But you know what? I'll take the 4 and hope they keep it close. Raptors have also been really good against the spread. Then we're taking the Grizzlies on the road. I just think this number is too low for where they've been. They are the 3rd best road team in the NBA, 15-8. They are 32-17. They've been rolling as we've talked them up, and we've bet them several times on this show. The San Antonio Spurs just aren't very good. They rolled over the Rockets as they should have. But the line's at 4.5 here. I mean, if you don't want to get dicey with it, similar to the Timberwolves game last night, maybe they start slow and win late, but they're 31-17 against the spread. I feel good about them laying the number, but if you don't, you can still get them under -200. So if you want to just throw them in an NBA parlay here, I love it. And then I'm going to go to one of my favorite plays of the day. Shop this number. I can't get it anywhere else other than 2-1 right now, but I'm taking Jokic triple-double against my Brooklyn Nets, who have been struggling. They have no big men in existence other than LaMarcus Aldridge, who we love, but he's very old and can't really rebound like he used to. Jokic had 28, 21, and 9 last game. That's insane. Before that, he didn't get a double-double or triple-double, and then triple-doubled 4 games in a row. Unbelievable. This guy's a machine. Former MVP. I'm taking him to get a triple-double. And there we go. Meaning that's a wrap.
Jeez, man, do you still have time to spare? Wow, that's pretty good, man. Not bad. A big part of this show, Tino Rodriguez, appreciate you yesterday, was pretty good as well. I see Joe Metz hanging in here. He's on the Suns. I was looking at the Suns on the money line. Just take him on the money line, maybe -124 against Utah. He checks in with the Suns at 2. Yes, I am the artist, Mark. I'm well aware your best bets hit often on our YouTube page. We're still asking people to head on over there and give their favorite bets. We only got if you want to get off your chest now, I'm gonna do this last segment solo, kind of tee up some stuff on Game Plus. But go ahead, Hall of Fame. You got like 30 seconds. Go.
The writers have too much control. They have too much power. You're seeing it with the NFL MVP voting. They shouldn't bring personal vendettas into voting for professional accolades. It's just ridiculous. You're seeing it with the Hall of Fame. We all knew Kurt Schilling wasn't going in. Kurt Schilling knew he wasn't going to get in, even without him speaking out. And there's a reason he did. I don't stand for what Schilling is talking about in his political beliefs. But the point is he stood up for it because it's ridiculous. People are bringing things outside of the sport into voting for certain things that affect these people's wealth and growth and respect as an athlete. And it just shouldn't be the case. And so, Bonds and Clemens and all these guys will still have a chance to get in on this other voting system. But that's not the point. The Baseball Writers Association let them down by not getting them in. And the people who did vote for them this time, I know we got 66%, only did it because they felt like they had to, which is even worse. It's even worse.
It'll be interesting to see if the players do find a way to get Bonds in. We'll break one more segment here on Mean Streets. Keep her locked. Welcome back one final time. I just wanted to give some love to Game Plus Network tonight at 8 Eastern, All in Football. Jake Seeley, I'm going to join him this afternoon. It's not too early to talk wide receiver rankings for 2022. He's one of the best rankers in the game. So we are going to talk a little bit about the AFC and NFC Conference Championship games and dive into keeper league questions, dynasty questions, and take a look at early 2022 rankings. Thanks to everybody for taking the time to hang out. We will be back tomorrow. And Brad Ziegler is in here on Friday. You're going to want to watch that show. Have a good one, guys. Take care.